guys, welcome back to Libro review. I hope you're doing very nice and I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. In today's video, I'm going to be recommending 18 spiritual / philosophical books for beginners. This is the ultimate guide if you want to start reading philosophical or spiritual books. Nowadays, we don't really get a lot of space to invest time and emotions into our spiritual growth. That does not mean that it is not important. Spiritual growth can back up your emotional growth, your mental growth, resulting to your physical growth. Whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever it is or not, I believe that spiritual growth is for everyone and there is something out there for each and every person. Today, I'm going to try my best that I'm able to give you at least one recommendation that will help you to start your spiritual journey. Read it as slow as you want. Read it 2-3 pages a day. I have read it very slow, and slowly watch your perception changing towards things and everything just becomes more beautiful in this world. Let's begin the video. The first book, which I think is the obvious one but is so beautiful, like beyond beautiful, is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I have this gorgeous edition of this. I will put the links to all the books in the description so you can check it out. I've learned how to take his name right, so that is amazing for me. This is a very small book. It's like the tiniest, no, there is one book that is tinier than this, but that is very heavy to read. This is the tiniest, most beautiful book that you can start your spiritual journey with. It is the story of a man who has been in exile for over 12 years and wants to go back to his home, and finally it is time for him to go back home. When he is going back home, all the people in that island where he was staying ask him if he has any words of wisdom for them, and that is when the Prophet starts giving them whatever he has within him. Words of wisdom on love, marriage, children, giving, houses, clothes, buying and selling. These are just a few topics. He also covers a lot of other topics in the most poetic way possible. So if you want to read something poetic, something gorgeous, this is your book. As a beginner, there may be a few words that you will have to Google because it is not written in like normal language. It is written in a poetic language, which means there are some words which you don't listen to on a day-to-day basis, but it is so worth it. Take your time, read one chapter at a time. I actually read the entire book in one sitting just because I felt like I got the ability to like drink up the ocean of beauty. Like that's what it felt like because it's so small, and I was like, I am not going to miss out on this opportunity of like just gulping up as much as I can. Though I am going to reread it in a way where I read only one chapter a day and just admire its beauty. It is gorgeous. I started highlighting a few lines in the beginning, but then you can't really highlight the whole book, right? Which is why I stopped highlighting, because the whole book is so amazing. The next amazing book for beginners is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. This is a story of a common man who has this thirst for knowledge, for truth, and all he does is try his best to get to know the truth, to get to know the knowledge of the world that will free him, that will give him freedom from the cycles of the world, from the patterns of the world, and he is not able to get it until finally he does. Another really short and very extremely easy book to read. If you are the kind of person who just like has this thing at the back of your mind that there has to be more, you know, there has to be more than what we can see, there has to be more to experience, there has to be more, this is your book, because that is exactly what a guy is going through. He will help you through your journey. The next amazing book that I want to recommend for beginners is Inner Trek by Mohan Ranga Rao. I really hope I'm taking the name right. This is one of the most heartwarming spiritual books that I have ever read in my whole life. This is a story of a man who is not exactly like enthusiastic when it comes to being spiritual, when it comes to praying, when it comes to experiencing those things in the world. But it starts with him falling into a pit of problems that is life-threatening. When he is going through such problems, he looks towards the one person that gives him warmth and happiness, and that is his wife. He trusts his wife, he loves her, and knows that she'll be able to give him a lot of peace. When he turns to her for suggestions, she suggests that he goes for a trek in the mountains of Kailash. He does get out of the problem, and he does everything he can to repay. He helps people, he feeds people, all of those things, but he's very reluctant towards going for the trek. However, he takes it as a challenge and goes, and that is where the most beautiful and actually real journey begins of a man who is in complete like awe of oh my god, like such things are possible and such things exist. Let me tell you 2 or 3 amazing things about the book. One, it is so beyond easy to read, and it is written in a way of a normal, like you and me kind of people, because it is a travelogue. Travelogue is like a travel journal, which is you go outside, you travel, you come back and you write in your journal. 2, it's real. That kept blowing my mind. I have read such beautiful stories, obviously, in all the other books also, but so many of them are not real. This is it actually happened. I kept getting reminded of that, and that kept blowing my mind. The third thing is the book is full of pictures. The author truly just takes us along with him on this journey. I love this author so much because I was able to experience something through his eyes. I'm so excited to go over there myself and experience all of these things myself. But knowing that in my hands I have, look at these pictures, knowing that in my hand I have the experience of one human being, like a real normal human being, really makes my day. I love this book so much. If you're often reluctant towards reading spiritual books or even spirituality in general, then this is definitely your book. The next book is for all my food lovers out there. Imagine embarking upon your spiritual or philosophical journey with the help of food. And the book is Spirits in a Spice Jar by Sarana Kamini. When I read this book, I was not into memoir because I didn't really find them interesting. So this is probably like the first memoir that I had ever read, but it was so interesting, especially as a food lover myself. Now when I say a food lover, I'm not only saying like people who love to eat. Obviously for them also it's great because I am one of those people who only likes to eat. But if you're also a fan of cooking, then it's going to be so beautiful. In this book, Sarana Kamini is hit by the news of her mother having a disease which shakes her faith in everything there is in the whole world. Now she has to cope with the news, she has to take care of her mother, and one of the ways in which she copes is cooking. So she talks about different recipes, she talks about different ingredients, and she talks about how it makes her feel and how it elevates her soul. For example, salt. Salt is the accelerator, the intensifier. It alone is the spice with the power to explode the taste of what lies within. That is beautiful because all of us have some sort of salt in our life. We have all these values and good habits and whatever it is within us, but for example, positivity is the accelerator. It is the salt in our life. Similarly, there are chapters with other recipes and ingredients too. It is a very, very beautiful book. So if you're a food lover and you want to start with your spiritual journey, this is beautiful. The next book I want to recommend is Where There Is Light. This book I got when I was in 3rd standard. I don't know what I was thinking, but I have been a fairly spiritual person since like as young as possible. And as a 3rd standard kid, I've written favorite book on the side. You guys, this book is, look at these drawings that I have made. I thought that I'm doing something really abstract and amazing. I thought in 3rd standard that I'm understanding each and everything that is written in the book. But when I started reading it later on again, after I grew up a little bit, I realized that yes, it is indeed a beautiful book. And obviously there were so many things that I did not understand in 3rd standard. But what I want to say over here is that if a kid in 3rd standard is ready to pick up this book, you must understand this is very easy to read. Now there are chapters in the book, but it is also divided in such paragraphs which makes it very easy to read because you don't have to read one full chapter at a time. It can be like a book of proverbs for you that you wake up, look at, read, and then keep it back. This book is very, very deep. It talks about peace and calmness and literally every aspect of life, love, marriage, finance, everything in a spiritual and philosophical manner, and it gives you so much peace and makes you feel so full. It makes you feel like you're this magical, wondrous thing in this world, not by the words of empowerment that yes, you can do it and all of that stuff, but you realize your mightiness, you realize how glorious you are, you realize how amazing you are. The next book I'm not going to talk a lot about, but it had to be in this video because it is an amazing book, is 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. It is a fiction book that you can read if you want to start your journey of spiritualism. Being spiritual and philosophical or whatever it is all about love. Honestly, most of the books that I have recommended right now, all of them are about love. Core of being spiritual is love, and if you want to start with being spiritual or understanding spirituality, I think 40 Rules of Love can be an amazing book. It is a little complex to read and there are a lot of characters, so you have to take your time with it, but it is definitely beginner friendly and it will change change your entire life. I literally read this book and came up with a journal myself. This book taught me so much in very difficult times. It completely changed my life. It is a story of Ella, who is a 40-year-old. She's living her life in a very dull manner and she doesn't even care about anything until one day she gets a book that she has to write a report on. And when she starts reading that book, she reads the story of Rumi and Shams and the love of companionship that they share, and she reads about the 40 rules of love. This book is truly freeing in ways that you did not know you need freedom. The next complex yet very important book that I have for you, and you can definitely read it even if you're a beginner, though you have to read it a little slow, is Letting Go by David Hawkins. I've recommended this book before also. It is one of my most favorite books ever. I did not read this book from page to page, and I don't suggest that you do read this book from start to finish. You can read this book chapter wise. So if you're the kind of person who wants to start with their spiritual journey, but you can't just read like all this poetic stuff in the beginning itself, or you can't just have faith in 1 second on something, then this is definitely your book. This book is so beyond important in a way that I'm going to recommend it like a lot more times, because I don't think that we have been taught to let go of a lot of things. As human beings, I feel like socially, like since childhood, we have learned how to hold on to things as tight as possible. And obviously holding on to things is very important, but you need to understand how to recognize what to hold on to, what to let go, all of those things. And how do you let go? All of that information is there in this book, and you will understand how when you let go, you make space for what is meant for you and you let it come in, and then you can hold on to it. The next book I'm going to recommend is 4 Agreements, a very easy to read book with 4 chapters, which are the 4 agreements. The reason I'm recommending this book is because if you want action steps that will help you in your spiritual journey, things that you can do on a day-to-day basis that will help you in your journey, this is the best book ever. The 4 agreements are the 4 things that you have to practice every day, and the 4 agreements are very short and easy to remember. Like the titles are very short and easy to remember, so it is not like a lot of information that you have to take in and then keep processing. Like letting go is very deep and there's so much to take in. You can definitely read 4 agreements in one go. It is very easy to read. You can understand what they are. You can probably write it on a paper and stick it somewhere so that you're always seeing it, and start practicing it. It is going to help you so much in your spiritual journey. The next short book that I want to recommend to you is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. I read this book for the first time when I was in 8th standard. There was this word called the social mask, and I did not even know what that meant at that time, but I still read this book. Obviously, if you are like a little older, you're going to understand this book so much more. But even if you are a teenager and you want to start with your spiritual journey, I think this is an amazing book. It's a pocket book, so you can read it repeatedly. You can carry it with yourself wherever you want. When I read it for like I don't know which time when I was in college, I always had this with myself, and I have all these sentences and everything underlined and stuff. By success, it does not mean like the common definition of success that we have, but whatever you define your success as. I, however, think that it is the 7 spiritual laws of nature that help you to be happy. Also, by the way, if you are into the law of attraction and you've read a few books on it, but you are not able to understand like the entirety of it, then this is an amazing book, because all these laws support the law of attraction. So once you understand these laws, it's going to be much easier for you to go ahead with the law of attraction. The next book I'm going to recommend is Sophies World by Jocelyn Garder. Now this is more of a philosophical book compared to a spiritual book, but I think philosophy and spiritualism, like they really complement each other, so you will have a lot of fun reading it. It is definitely meant for beginners. It is from the point of view of a 15-year-old who's trying to understand different philosophies of the world. If you're into philosophy at all, if you really like philosophy and you want to understand it in a basic easy language, then this is your book. Another gem of a book. I think this is one of those books that you need to have. The next extremely easy and joyful and enjoyable book I want to recommend is Tuesdays with Mori. This book is so good. I don't have the physical copy with me right now. This is a story of an old man and a young man. The young man has lost all interest in life and the old man is about to die. The old man used to be the young man's teacher, so the young man has gone to visit. But then they start meeting every Tuesday and the old man starts passing his knowledge to the new new man, and young man starts feeling like he has just been born. Very, very, very simple. If you liked The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall, you're gonna love this book. It is so easy to read. It is also very, very emotional to read because I cried a couple of times when I read Tuesdays with Mori. If you want like the most beginner friendly like fiction book that you want to read, fiction, not non-fiction, fiction book that you want to read, this is your book. The next two books I want to recommend at the same time are the books by Eckhart Tolle, which is like, oh my god, so important. And the book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. There is another book, Practicing the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is completely beginner friendly. You can start that. I read it as an audiobook. You should also read it as an audiobook if you can, because it is so good. But if you're not able to start with that, you can definitely start with The Power of Now. It is a little more like easier to begin with. It is in a question and answer format, so you're able to understand the terminologies that Eckhart Tolle uses to define spirituality, to define philosophy, what is ego, what is pain body. And once you are done with this and you start understanding what enlightenment is, like what is all of this, all of these words that you listen to whenever you're listening to about like spiritualism and everything, that is when you keep this book, read that also slowly, and then you go to the gem of a book, that is A New Earth. This book majorly explores ego, how ego is controlling most of our life and how we can make it our slave and be the masters and enter this whole new earth, whole new reality where you're living life with pure joy and happiness. The next book I want to recommend is The Mask Syndrome by Rusbe and Barucha. This is another gorgeous book. This is one of the books that helps you to understand that whatever you're looking for in the entire world and you're running behind it and you're chasing it, if you're the kind of person who's like in constant stress all the time, then this is your book, The Mask Syndrome. It is very beyond easy to read. It is very thin also. It is one of those books that you can read in one sitting if you want to. And this is the book that will help you to realize that everything that you're looking for in the outside world is all within you, and you will actually realize it. It is not the kind of book that will tell you that this is the truth and then you have to accept it like that. It goes from level to level, helping you understand that this is the truth. You will realize it. It can be confidence, it can be love, it can be success, it can be anything like self-worth, validation, anything. It is all inside you. Another small fiction book that I have for you is Jonathan Living Seagull. Read this book when I was in 10th standard. This book again is so easy to read, and it is a story of a seagull who is kind of weirded out and finds like questions everything that the flock of seagulls are doing on a day-to-day basis, and he has all of these new ideas that he wants to implement on and do, and the other seagulls have their boundaries and everything, and this seagull is like, no, like this cannot be my boundary. So all the seagulls throw him out of the community and he's exiled, and then we see what he does after he has been exiled. It is such a beautiful book. If you have kids, you can definitely give this book to them if you want them to start their spiritual journey. This book is full of numbers, I must say, which was not a good point for me because I don't like math in my books, but it is definitely very interesting to read and see what a seagull does, and somehow the author was able to make it all spiritual, and it is amazing. The last two books I have for you is one, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is very easy. Another memoir of a woman that has just been divorced and then went through a breakup in like 10 days after her divorce, and she has hit rock bottom and she does not know what to do, and that is when she embarks upon her own spiritual journey, and this is the story of that. This is another travelogue only actually. Again, it is all true, which again blows my mind completely. She goes to Italy, she comes to India, and she goes to Bali, and she's able to explore the different levels of spirituality and the different levels of pleasure and God and love and everything there is in the world to experience. It is also a movie. Actually, I don't usually recommend this, but you can watch the movie first if you want. Julia Roberts is there in it, and it's a good enough movie. You can watch that first, then read the book, and you'll realize that books are always better, but you'll also be able to understand the book a little better. And the last book, which I kept in the end, is because it's the most intense book that I have in the entire pile, is Belief and Beyond by Mukunda Rao. Now this is for all my people out there who love the Vedas, who love Gita, who love all of those Shastras. If you want to get into that world, this is an amazing introduction, because this is the collection of all the information that you can get from all of those books as an introduction. It talks about duality, the non-dual state, basically letting us know how we are more than the human body on a philosophical and spiritual level, but it comes from the Gita and the Vedas. Alright you guys, that is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. That were a lot of books to talk about, and I really hope you got at least one recommendation out of it. I apologize for my voice. I don't even know if you guys can hear it, or maybe only I can hear it in my head, but this is the best you get. I've been putting off this video thinking that I will shoot it once my voice is completely fine, but I just couldn't put it off anymore because it is so interesting. Thank you so much if you bared with the voice and you came till the end. I have very exciting videos lined up for you guys. You're gonna love it so much. So do subscribe if you haven't. Please do like, share, subscribe, bell button, all those amazing things. Bye.